mastic cryptic letters, chilling ciphers that still remain unsolved. The Zodiac Killer terrorized California in the late 1960s and early 70s, taunting police and the public with clues, but never revealing his identity. Who was he, and why was he never caught? Today, we dive into one of the most infamous, unsolved mysteries of all time. On the night of December 20th, 1968, 17-year-old David Faraday arrived at the home of his new girlfriend, Betty Lou Jensen, in the small northern California city of Benicia. The teenagers had met 2 weeks earlier while attending a church function and had become so attached to one another that David was soon cutting classes to visit with Betty Lou. As the young couple departed for what was to be their first official date, David promised Mr. and Mrs. Jensen that he would return with their daughter by 11:300 p.m. The proud parents watched as Betty Lou and her new suitor climbed into David's Rambler station wagon and drove away. David and Betty Lou did not keep their promise, and shortly 11:300 p.m., a driver traveling along a darkened stretch of Lake Herman Road found the young couple lying on the ground in a spot known as a lover's lane. The two teenagers had been shot to death while Mia and Mrs. Jensen were waiting at home, resisting the urge to glance at the clock, left with no clues or viable suspects. Benicia police believed that the two teenagers were the victims of a random act of senseless violence. Hopes of catching the killer faded by summer, and it seemed that the case would remain unsolved. Fast forward to July 4th, 1969. Another couple, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Maggio, was attacked in a parking lot. This time, there was a survivor, Michael Maggio. Despite multiple gunshot wounds, lived to tell police about the attack. He described the shooter as a man with a flashlight and a gun, but it wasn't much to go on. According to Vallejo Police Department, 22-year-old waitress, wife, and mother Darlene Ferrin was a fun, loving free spirit with many friends and male admirers. On the night of July 4th, Darlene and her friend Mike Maggio drove to Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, California. As they sat inside Darlene's Corvair, another vehicle entered the parking lot and abruptly left the area. The vehicle returned a few minutes later and parked behind the Corvair. A man holding a light emerged from the car and walked toward Darlene and Mike. Without warning, the man pointed a 9mm pistol at the passenger window and opened fire. Doctors pronounced Darlene dead on arrival at the local hospital at 3:30 a.m. 2 minutes later, Vallejo Police Department dispatcher Nancy Slover answered a telephone call placed from a payphone just blocks from the station. The caller spoke in a low, monotone voice, as if reading from a prepared script. You want to report a murder. If you will go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway, you will find kids in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye. Investigators from Vallejo and Benicia realized they were searching for the same killer and worked to develop possible suspects. The bald and sinister phone call raised fears that the gunman would strike again. Just a month after the second attack, newspapers in California received an anonymous letter. It contained a detailed confession of the murders and an unusual challenge. The writer demanded they publish his message or more people would die. But it wasn't just a letter, it included a coded cipher, supposedly revealing his identity. When the cipher was finally cracked, the message was horrifying. I like killing people because it is so much fun. But there was no name, no real clues to his identity. The Zodiac had created a terrifying persona, a faceless killer who toyed with both the police and the public. September 27, 1969, Lake Berryessa. College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a peaceful afternoon when a man wearing a black hood and a strange symbol on his chest approached them. He tied them up before brutally stabbing them multiple times. Then, he left behind a chilling message written on their car door, Zodiac. Minutes after the attack, the Napa County Police received a call. The voice on the other end calmly confessed to the murders before hanging up. The call was traced to a payphone near the crime scene, but once again, the Zodiac had vanished.
Conclusive enough to link the murderer of Celia Shepard to other murders in the Vallejo area in the past year. Anywhere in the Bay Area or anywhere, he should go to the nearest law enforcement agency and turn himself in. And we will try to do whatever we can to help this man.
Does it seem to you as if you're pretty much on the verge of finding this man?
Well, I wouldn't want to say that, Dave. We're hoping. We've got some good things working for us, but it takes time. And to be able to reach out and pluck this guy out of the air isn't done. In most murder cases, you'll find a motive. But of course, this guy is just a killer, a mad killer, and you have no motive, so it makes it a little bit harder for us to track him down.
It's also fairly obvious that the man greatly enjoys the publicity that surrounds this thing. And there's a chance that man could be watching this interview.
That's true.
What would you have to say to this man?
About the only thing I could say to him I think he realizes he needs help. I'm sure he does. And I'm sure he realizes what he's doing, and this is, to me, it's a sex crime. He's doing this for gratification, and I feel that he should definitely seek aid at any agency that he wants to go to in law enforcement.
If I remember right, in speaking with one of the deputies who was investigating this thing, you said that the first thing you told a deputy out there was to give some idea of a description of the man. Do you understand now how your mind was able to work that well under those conditions? You really did an exceptional job in that.
Well, through the whole thing, like I mentioned before, at the beginning, I did think I was going to die. And so from that moment on, one has to have certain goals that you have to set. The first goal, of course, was to live. I suppose the second goal was to get untied. The next one was to get help. And getting help, getting to the hospital. You know, you have to have a successive set of goals. And if you can keep this going and you can keep your mind active, whether you die or not, you're at least psychologically attuned, whether you're in shock or not. If you can keep arguing with yourself, praying, doing anything to keep your mind off of yourself, or at least just not lapsing back and just saying, well, it's no use.
Brian will probably be able to leave Queen of the Valley Hospital fairly soon. But where he's going from here is being kept secret in the event that the man who attacked him and killed Cecilia Shepard on Lake Berryessa a week ago Saturday tries again. Brian made it for two reasons some people might regard as intangibles, but reasons that for him were enough: a strong faith and an equally strong will to live. Dave Monsees, Eyewitness News, at Queen of the Valley Hospital, Napa. You know that this man is still at large, and that there is a better than average possibility that this could be the same man who was involved in 4 murders over in Vallejo. Can you think of anything that you might want to tell that man at all?
I considered him a robber. I had absolutely no thought that he was anything but that. And when we were at this robbery stage, I didn't consider any real threat to my life or to the girl or anything. I really didn't consider this, but I really wanted to help him. And
Did he seem as though he would like your help at all?
No, he didn't, and he didn't even end up taking the money. But I
bear no grudge.
Well, of course not. I don't think that he was acting under his total complete consciousness. And when a man is, if you don't mind using the word sick, you can't hold this against them. But the real concern that I have is that he doesn't do this again. I'd like to see some people save this experience.
Early last Saturday evening, Celia Shepard and Brian Hartnell, both in their early 20s, were sitting on this knoll of land overlooking part of Lake Berryessa. They thought they were alone, but there was a third man on this knoll, a man who wore a medieval-style executioner's hood, carried a knife and gun, and intended to use them.
I've had 11 years patrolling this lake, and I've seen a lot of people cut up by boat accidents and this, but this is one of the worst things I ever witnessed, for no reason at all. Just a hooded man came up with a pistol drawn on him, tied him up, and then told him he had to kill him. So.
This guy is a pathological psycho killer. There's no doubt about it.
Is there any doubt in your mind that there is or is not any connection between Vallejo and Lake Berryessa?
This we're sifting out now. I wouldn't say that there is any connection, yet I wouldn't want to tell you there isn't at this time. We have some pretty good physical evidence that we're working on now. Mm-hmm. And of course, we're going to get together with the Vallejo authorities. We've been in contact with them since the incident, and we definitely will pool our resources.
Tied him up, and then he still didn't take the money. He gets it, the money's in my pocket. He said, I don't want the money, all I want to do is kill you. Yeah, when I arrived on the scene that Saturday night around 7:13, well, found this young girl in on the shoreline here, all stabbed in several places. And her boyfriend, male companion, came to from, he had been stabbed. He had taken off for help. And the other patrolman came in, which is Dennis Lamb. He found him some 100 yards from here, passed out. So he brought him back to the scene of the where the girl was.
7:40 p.m., Officer Slate of the Napa Police Department received this call, and the subject stated, I want to report a murder. No, a double murder. They are about 2 miles above park headquarters in Lake Berryessa, and they are driving a Volkswagen Karmann Ghia. And with that, the officer asked, well, where are you now? And he stated, I did it. And with that, the officer could feel that there was nobody on the line. He said, are you there, are you there? And there was no answer.
On October 11, 1969, the Zodiac claimed his only confirmed victim in San Francisco. Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver, picked up a fare in the Presidio Heights neighborhood. Unbeknownst to him, his passenger was the Zodiac Killer. As Stein drove to the requested destination, the Zodiac pulled out a gun and shot him in the head. He then stole a piece of Stein's shirt and fled the scene. Minutes later, the Zodiac called the police from a nearby payphone, taunting them with details of the crime. This brazen act marked a turning point in the case. The Zodiac began sending letters and ciphers to newspapers, escalating his game of cat and mouse. But despite his boldness, his identity remained and still remains a mystery. On March 27, 1970, a 22-year-old Kathleen Johns was driving near Modesto, California with her infant daughter. Around 7 p.m., a man in another car began honking and signaling that something was wrong with her vehicle. When Kathleen pulled over, the man claimed her wheel was loose and offered to fix it. But as soon as she stepped out of her car, he drove off. With her baby still inside, Kathleen quickly got back into her car and chased after him, but the man led her on a terrifying, hours-long ordeal. He drove her in circles, threatened her, and even stopped at one point to let her out, only to force her back into the car. Finally, Kathleen managed to escape when the man stopped at a gas station. She ran inside and called the police. Kathleen later identified the Zodiac's police sketch as her abductor. But was it really him? The Zodiac never claimed responsibility for this crime, and some investigators believe it may have been a copycat or an unrelated incident. The Zodiac Killer changed crime investigations forever. His cryptic letters, taunting messages, and disturbing crimes have inspired countless books, documentaries, and movies. But one question remains: will we ever know the truth? Was he just a ghost from the past, or is he still among us,